All right, folks, welcome back to Not Funny Guys Presents Go Team Venture. And we are plowing right along. We're almost done with season 3, which unfortunately means we're almost at our end run in terms of what you can watch on Netflix. Now, we will have our final episodes coming on Wednesday. I also promise on Wednesday at that point to also have information where you can view this if you do not own it, but you should own it. Just saying. All right, so this day, Monday, we're looking at Now Museum, Now You Don't. So let's start there, and then we'll take a look at the Lepidopterists. I don't even know how to say that one. Good episode. Both of these are really good episodes. So let's start with Now Museum, Now You Don't. Originally aired July 27, 2008, written by Jackson Public. And this one we have Spider Skull Island as our main point. Actually, the main point for both episodes, actually. We find ourselves in the past with the Fraternity of Torment, where we have old villains like Branulo, Manotaur, who Phantom Limb took out as his retirement, unfortunately, back in end of season 2, thinking it was the Monarch. No, that was the beginning of season 3. Yes, when we had that Shadow Man, Monarch lied to him about who he was. And Scaramantula, who was the previous owner of the base. They're all here to get together to seek their revenge on Dr. Venture, who is already infiltrated the group, doing a very much a kind of, holding the eyes up racist Chinese thing. Pretending to be, and then he kind of reveals himself, but apparently they have Rusty in a chair over a pit of tarantulas. And now this one, I can't remember the Bond movie, but Spider Skull Island and this main room is very much reminiscent of a Bond film. Someone tell me in the comments which Bond film it is if you've seen the episode. It's slipping my mind at the moment. I want to say Goldfinger, but I'm probably wrong. I think it was an episode. I think it was actually a playable level, perhaps in GoldenEye. I don't know. I could be wrong. But of course, the Team Venture then attacks, and we have all the Action Man is just going crazy with a gun, which is absolutely him. And then we have Humunguloid, who also is the guy who shrunk down. It's Henchmen. At the end of the whole attack, after they resolve things, he's having a heart attack. And there's a self-destruct set off by Scaramantula as he escapes out a secret passageway down some stairs. But apparently it short circuits, and Dickie, who is Mr. Future Professor Richard Impossible, shows up to take their picture. It is worth noting that we now have the new voice is Christopher McCullough, a.k.a. Jackson Public, our writer for this episode, and one of the Venture Brothers co-creators. He is actually our now voice, at least for season 3, of Professor Impossible. We will actually have Bill Hader step in later, and then actually Stephen Colbert apparently returns in season 6. I've been looking ahead. But this is now, Spider Skull Island is now where the Venture Brothers, the old Venture Team Venture, are making their headquarters. We now go into the future. JJ is apparently opening and turning Spider Skull Island, which is his now, into a museum dedicated to his father. And that's why everybody's here. We have a bunch of heroes and villains. Branulo is coming, and Scaramantula, along with all the old members of Team Venture. Even a drunk Professor Impossible shows up. All that fun stuff. The captain at one point walks in, the old pirate captain walks in on Sally naked, and she's already flustered, but that's actually hilarious. But that even ties into the whole thing, that she'll be mad at JJ for inviting Professor Impossible, now soon to be ex-husband since they're getting divorced. Of course, Dr. Venture and family are here. Rusty's here. And Rusty, in fact, at one point gets into a whole thing about the trauma of what it was like growing up being Dr. Venture's son. Then this gets the whole divorce papers. JJ says the reason he had Professor Impossible here is because he was a member of the old Boys Brigade, which apparently, if you look closely in the photograph they show you, one of the members of the Boys Brigade was also Phantom Limb. And the photo is set from like 1966. Of course, Professor Impossible's like desperate to get Sally back, but she wants nothing to do with him. In fact, later in this whole episode, she'll get into a fight with JJ over this whole thing because he starts acting very much like her and kind of ignoring her. the Action Man talks about, he's talking to Brock, and he talks about how back in the day, looking at a photo of JFK, they used to arch Castro and do all kinds of like fun 60s Rat Pack jetting stuff. And then they talk about Brainulo. They ask about him, and yeah, he talks about how he's supposedly from the future, and the Futuro robot that used to be his is actually in here that fell on him, and he's whole time he is pretending to be like mentally gaga. Billy Quizboy's there. He meets the old Team Venture. He's like getting into the whole idea of wanting to get their autographs, and they get the brilliant idea to set up a table and start charging for this stuff. Of course, Brainulo is faking this whole dementia thing. He's here to get to basically try and get back at them. And Scaramantula is also here, and they even set up a table to rival the Venture Brothers table to sign autographs. So everybody's profiting. Colonel Gentleman shows up, punching Rusty in the face because of the fact that he messed up with Dr. Quim. We saw in a couple episodes. And apparently we do realize that I believe that is his stepdaughter. He is also alive, as Hank and Dean thought he was dead, but apparently he'd fallen into a temporary diabetic coma, and he's now written a memoir, which he now begins to hawk as well. As I said a minute ago, JJ and Sally start to fight. Like I said, he's hawking his book. JJ gets everyone to gather for the old photo that they took once, and since Rusty wasn't in it, he even tries to get him to take it, and then he even requests Professor Impossible to take it, says, well, you took the original. So Brainulo starts wandering the room, trying to use his powers to get in the head and mess with people. As he moves across the room, we see the whole cavalcade of characters we've seen in Season 3 and Season 2. Manstrom's mother is in one of these things. Mandalay from Mr. Bisbee. Action Johnny. Even one of the guys that was commanding the submarine that Brock was on when he tried to go after hunter-gatherers. Whole thing. He's trying to promote people. He's trying to get into Billy's head, Professor Impossible. Even the pirates are getting unruly and mad at at JJ for not treating them as well as they think. And everybody's getting basically riled up. That's when the team photo, the pirates rebel. And at this point, Brock realizes, and he gets Dr. Venture and everybody to leave. Unfortunately, Brainulo is trying to working the room. As he continues to try and get everybody riled up. It's already happening. Like I said, Brock and Rusty are on the outside looking in at this all, and Rusty's like really diagnosing the whole situation. That's when Brock gets them to leave. Everyone starts getting into this sort of showdown fight when all of a sudden a film cuts on, and then ultimately thwarts Brainulo's whole thing. It's of Jonas talking, and it leads JJ to this real sentimental moment. Where he hears about Venture being interviewed saying his greatest invention is his son. And JJ is like, oh, Rusty, come up here and talk, and they're leaving. At this point, the self-destruct has reactivated, the one that deactivated itself years ago. And everybody panics. Scaramangelo and Brainulo run away out the secret passageway again, and they are all saved for Professor Impossible, who literally inserts his mouth stretching over the bomb thing, and it detonates inside of him, for which the pirate captain at the end says, after he gets thanked by Sally and JJ, who've sort of made up now, we all know you were just trying to kill yourself. Unfortunately, trying to unalive himself, as they like to say, so I don't get in too much trouble on YouTube. Sorry. But that brings us to the end of that great episode. Fun one, really fun, tying a whole bunch of things. Lovely backstory again. Remember, like, subscribe, comment, correct me, please, if you want to. But now we'll move on. And now we're back, and we're looking at Lepidopterists. I'm trying to remember how to pronunciate this name. I apologize. Again, correct me in the comments. This one aired on August 3rd, 2008, written by Doc Hammer. We sort of pick up where the Tears of the Sea Cow ended, where the Monarch was being able to arch JJ, except now I think we're on like a separate encounter. And the Monarch Cocoon are, of course, approaching Spider Skull Island. The Monarch prepares to attack. JJ thinks the Cocoon is a pine cone, and he thinks the Monarch is Mr. Evergreen. He assembles Ventronic, which is obviously with the pirate captain Ned, Sally, and JJ. It's obviously a Voltron knockoff with Ned piloting what looks like a clown snow cone. They basically kick the crap out of the Monarch. His lightning cannon fails. The cocoon is really cut up and damaged. And the monarch's like, hey, this is not how we're playing. You're not playing the game by the rules. And JJ calls the monarch, Mr. Evergreen. He finally gets corrected. Dr. Girlfriend then threatens him with guild retribution because he's not playing by the rules. His level of aggression is off here. So they have a truce. Well, JJ learns sort of what the guild rules are. 21 and 24, along with henchman number 1, who we've never met before, are called to infiltrate Spider Skull Island and commit to what's called a Dark S7 maneuver. While Dr. Girlfriend then asks, after they go on this mission, why 21 and 24? Why does the monarch always use them? He says they're the rare, invulnerable, and expendable blend that's like perfect for henchmen. And they really harp on this with number 1 the whole time. So only number 1 seems to understand what a Dark S7 maneuver even is. They just sort of like going along, and everything he does, they kind of mock him for throughout this entire episode. JJ is talking with the guild. Watch and Ward are kind of laughing at him, like, you're supposed to talk to OSI. And, oh yeah, we have the red phone, blah, blah, blah. Making Cold War references here for young folks. Then when he hangs up, Watch and Ward apparently creeped out by JJ saying, like, if Rainbow Bright and G.I. Joe had a kid. The monarch then pretends to be crippled and then sort of feigns a retreat. Well, he really does. This all ties back to the Dark S7 maneuver we'll see. JJ calls OSI. They pretend like they don't know what he's talking about, when all of a sudden 2 men in suits show up, Mr. Doe and Mr. Cardholder. They trank the pirate captain, sending him on a spiral of relapse into drug addiction, apparently. 21, 24, and number 1 get into Spider Skull Island. They basically apparently hitched a ride on Ventronic. They even talk about number 1 as if he's the new Speedy, which, if you remember back to the very first beginnings of season 1, what happened to poor Speedy. If you know, you know. Captain, of course, is now addicted to the trank drugs. The monarch, apparently, according to the Mr. Doe and Mr. Cardholder, has killed his last 5 arches. And the agents bring in an exterminator, which happens to be apparently Brock Sampson. And then JJ's even talking about how, you're supposed to kill the monarch. And he's talking about an antiquated system, this whole arching system. And Brock tries to explain to him that this is how they keep these crazy scientist people with mad things in check, as they get them to play this game. So they're not like a real threat to the real world. As long as everybody gets to have this little pantomime, we're all happy. It sort of, in a strange way, keeps order. Dr. Girlfriend, who, by the way, is back in her regular Jackie O outfit for some reason, talks about the guild bylaws, and apparently over-level 8 aggression that JJ's been engaged in would allow the monarch to then, if survived, direct his arching at family, which means he could arch Rusty Venture again, which is what he wants. Of course, 1 and 21 and 24 are going all around this thing. 21 and 24 are telling him he's a dead man. They even prove it, talking about a censored floor that has a trip alarm. 21 and 24 walk across it, no problem. When 1 does it, it sets off the alarm. He eventually gets hounded by Brock later. Meantime, JJ has shown them Scaramantula's old death ray, which they all start to drool over. And now the monarch is approaching them again, though it's a decoy, it's not for real. And so they prepare to engage him. It's basically a fake attack. The S7 maneuver has been completed, of course. 21, 24, like I said, are making their way out. 1 is now completely freaked out. He even tries to give them their real name. His real name is Scott Hall. And it's like, nope, doesn't work. They get found out. 21 and 24 pretend to be mannequins while Brock chases 1. And we're led to believe that 1 may have been, killed by Brock, as he normally does. 21, 24, of course, will also meet the captain again, and they trank him. And we see the cocoon appearing to be destroyed. When we're at the end, 21, 24 are sitting out in the docks thinking, they're out of a job again. When the monarch contacts them, they didn't know what the Dark S7 maneuver was, so they didn't really apparently understand what was really happening. But this has all been filmed. They had their fake stage set up in their home and a fake cocoon that they could see, because apparently you weren't in visual range for the death ray either. It was all filmed. It was all staged. But now the opportunity is open for the monarch to now turn his attention to who he really wants to arch, which is Rusty Venture. So that brings us to the end of our episodes for this week. Next week we have a triple header as we finish up season 3. And once again, I have forgotten to write down in my notes which episodes, and I'm not going to turn around and look on my computer. So, you know. But until then, I will see you on Wednesday. We'll wrap up season 3. We'll also take time on Wednesday to go ahead and talk about where you can continue watching Venture Brothers with us as part of our rewatch. Since we will have run out of what's available on Netflix, I will make sure to gather that information for you. And we'll wrap up season 3, which I believe we're unfortunately going to say goodbye to 24, but I may have said too much. Perhaps that expendable, invulnerable thing might wear off. You never know, but you'll have to wait and find out. So like, subscribe, follow along, and join us as we go forward in our rewatch. Until next time, go Team Venture. Say not funny guys again.
Not funny guys again.
No, can you say not funny guys?